Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Om. Welcome, all friends. I'm going to give my introduction just to keep things rolling. Very simple. My mother brought me to this ashram at the end of the summer of 1971 when I was a teenager. And that's where I embarked upon Sanskrit for the first time. Subsequent primary influence for Sanskrit, as well as all of my life, was our guru, Sri Brahmananda Saraswati. Other influences were very much Dr. Ramkaran Sharma, who we've talked about a bit this weekend, and also Professor Goldman at UC Berkeley was a wonderful influence and fantastic teacher. So before I start on our topic for today, I want to interject briefly a couple comments in response to the talk yesterday about what does Sanskrit do to the brain. Because the context of that talk was what did Sanskrit do to the brain in the context of meditating. And I want to just add a couple other things. Due to Dr. Sharma's grace, I gave a talk in Sanskrit at a Sanskrit university many years ago. And I still remember what I said there to these extremely young people, which was, one of the things I said was, I sat with my guru when I was young, and I am no longer a young woman, which was much less true 20 odd years ago, but to these extremely young students, it was so true. It was profoundly true. So I asked, I said, why do I still study? And one of the reasons I gave was that it makes me happy. So I wanted to add to the discussion that we're talking about, what does Sanskrit do to the brain, to add a couple other items that I have personally observed over more than a half centuries of experience with this language, was that it is a very profound mood alterer, and also it improves my cognitive function. Not maybe just cognitive function, my overall function, which means both cognitive and emotional. So I just wanted to add that to the comments on what is the meaning of Sanskrit. And I want to add that particularly because what I want to talk about today, one of my ideas of unity, was to talk about how some of these verses and sayings that I'm going to be teaching today are found in all languages. So across our planet, all we know of the species Homo sapiens is who live on this little, one writer used to say, blue-green planet that we need to protect and nurture. All of us in this biosphere have a lot of commonalities of ideas, and I want to discuss that and invite people from the audience to give me some of your sayings that you might have grown up with. As someone originally from the East Coast, living in California for many years, I'm aware that a lot of expressions I take for granted, people in California look at me funny. they didn't grow up with these quotes. And I am always at a loss whether it is generational, whether some of them I got from reading books, and some of it I am convinced is a coastal difference. There's expressions that you would take for granted on the East Coast, and people have to pause a little bit when you use them in California to decode what's your context. And, you know, we could go on and on about that. But there is also, talking with people I've met from many different cultures, there's wonderful commonality of expressions. So that's one of my ideas of unity, is to explore that there may be something in the Sanskrit expression of them that is good for us, because, as our guru said, Sanskrit is the washing machine of the mind. But there is also something very powerful in quotes if they're given the right thing at the right time. And I think it is much more important not what we say to our friends and relatives, but what we say to ourselves. So I know that things that have been said to me that I play back have kept me going. And that is some of the theme of hope that we're going to talk about today. What gives you not just inspiration, but fortitude to keep going? And I think those are useful, and they express in different ways. We're going to do, in a little while, we're going to do Jalabindu Nipatena, which many of you have had. It's a very simple verse in Sanskrit that talks about, by the falling of drops of water, the jar is gradually filled. And I've thought a lot about how do we say that in English. In English, we have the negative. We have Rome was not built in a day. So I also think it's interesting to look at these expressions, because they can be expressed in a positive way or a negative way and give a similar meaning, but a little bit different nuance. And how many of you know gotita gotita se llena el vaso? Okay. We have one, maybe 2, 3 more. It's the same thing in Spanish. And for me personally, I have lived with very bad plumbing. And in very bad plumbing, you see a drip, and you put a bucket under it before you go to bed, and you say, I have a big bucket, no problem. You get up in the morning, and your bucket is close to overflowing. And you think, oh my goodness, thank goodness that was a big bucket, because otherwise I'd be in trouble. So, having had this experience in a couple different houses, this saying of drop by drop has always struck me as profound. Anyway, so the quote that I picked for the top here is from one of my favorite sci-fi fantasy writers. In one of her books, she has a prayer, and it says, may the bastard, who is the god she's referring to, is called the bastard, grant us in our direst needs. And there's a whole list of things. But the two that I like so much are the one right word, or the feather at the pivot point. So I think sometimes it's the littlest thing that can give us the strength to keep going, or help us see our lives in a little bit different mode, or just make us smile at the next person who walks down the street. Whatever is needed. So we're going to talk about these verses in the context of being the one right word. And for that, we have this lovely verse in Sanskrit, which is Amantram aksharam nasti. Amantram aksharam nasti. Nasti moolam anaushadham. Nasti moolam anaushadham. Ayogya purusho nasti. Ayogya purusho nasti. Yojakastatra durlabha. Yojakastatra durlabha. So many of these verses, I'm going to just jam right through. I had less time to prepare, so I threw in more, which is how writing goes for those of you who are writers. But this one, I would like to slow down a little bit. Who can tell me what is an akshara? Letter or a syllable, yeah. And what is a mantra?
Instrument for the mind.
It's a word that I haven't looked up recently, and it's worth looking up again, but it is some sound that has what we call mantric value, which is you can meditate on it, right? It has that strength. So this first pada says there is no letter that cannot be a mantra. And then nasti moolam. What is a moola? Anaushadham. Non-medicinal, right? Yeah. There is no root that cannot be a medicine. This third pada is a little more challenging, but I think more important nowadays than ever. Ayogya purusho nasti. What is a purusha? A person. And what is yogya? Appropriate, you could say useful. So ayogya is useless, you could say, maybe. So there is no one who is inappropriate, but then the last pada, which is where they often sock it to you, yojakas tatra durlabha. Anyone tell me what is durlabha? Difficult to obtain. So yojaka, I didn't think too hard about how to translate, but it is the person who unites. So the person who organizes. So what is it that you have the right root at the right time? You have the right syllable at the right time. So you have the right person. Like it might be that someone you think is useless, but you put them in the right context and they're just what was needed. So in terms of what we say in terms of advice, one of the things they tried to teach us the first semester of physical therapy school was that Pollyanna platitudes don't work well on patients. That you can't just say, oh dear, you'll be fine without that leg. Before you know it, you'll be rolling along on your prosthetic. The example actually given was an arm, but even more maybe challenging. So sometimes the most wise thing is to listen and not to talk. So that is a whole other thing, but if you take it in the context of our first verse, that you try to be the proper yojaka or yojika, and especially to ourselves. So how do we talk to ourselves? Which one of these messages do we give, and is it at the right time? So what I've included in this, some things because I was trying to be unwisely complete, but a lot of things that have given me hope over the years and countered some of my negative inner voices. So anyway, this first one, and what I also wanted to add is that oftentimes these words of advice can be completely opposite. He who hesitates is lost. Look before you leap. So which one are you listening to? Depends, right? Yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm just thinking of places in books where all of this was extremely applicable. So that we're going to look at. The next one we're starting with should be, yeah.
Oh, I have a quick question. So
Yeah.
the fourth pada would be there. It is difficult to attain.
No, okay, so you're asking the meaning of tatra. So
And the
tatra
whole
means
fourth.
in this context. So yojaka, a proper manager or organizer. Tatra, meaning like what is the best route? What is the best person? Durlabha, that's what, not easy to find. And depending, all right, sometimes I develop a cough when I'm about to digress. So I think that cough just saved me from digressing. Yeah. So let's go to the next Shanta.
Question, that last verse, yojika, oh, sorry. Yojika from the root yod?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it should be like literally uniter. This is why I didn't look it up too much, because you have to give by context. Manager, yeah. I mean, yeah, uniter. And, you know, I had a good friend tell me at one of the crises of my life, you need to turn off this side of yourself because it won't serve you here. So that, again, you can take it for your inner beings as well. So this next verse, we will get at some point Bharati's input on it, but I will give you what I remember of Guruji teaching it. I think it's ascribed to Kalidas, but whatever it is, it's a great verse, even if I have parts of the frame story wrong. There was, I think it's thought of Kalidasa because of the king Bhoja. Anyway, never mind all that. The king, whose name was Bhoja, went and bothered his wife when she was talking to one of her good friends. He sort of busted in. And then the poet did something very foolish, such that the king called him a fool. And this verse was written in answer, and it gives a little bit of context of correcting the king's behavior, because it's named as, what are all the ways you can be a fool? And I like it so much because it covers day-to-day life, as well as it goes deep and it goes less deep, which is one of the great virtues of a lot of Sanskrit. Anyway, Kadanna gacchami hasanna jalpe, Kadanna gacchami hasanna jalpe, Gatam na shochami kritam na manye, Gatam na shochami kritam na manye. Dvabhyam tritiyo na bhavami rajan, Dvabhyam tritiyo na bhavami rajan, Kim karanam bhoja bhavami murkha, Kim karanam bhoja bhavami murkha. So, what is the signature behavior of a fool? The first one is kadanna gacchami. I don't eat while I'm going somewhere. And this is one that comes to mind so much when it's very easy to rush through daily life and sort of grab something on the run and not sit down properly and eat nicely, which I'm sure Ayurveda has a whole lot on the importance of this, not doing this, yeah? I got this lecture very much from an acupuncturist many years ago. Anyway, the second one is Hasanna Jalpe. And that, Guruji said, is if you're telling a joke and you think the joke is so funny, you start laughing at the joke before you have completely told it, and then the people who are trying to listen to the joke miss the point. So that's second way to be a fool. Then it goes a little bit different tone, Gatam na shochami. I do not grieve for that which is gone. And I'm translating it as that, not whom, because part of human life is we need to grieve for those we've lost. We are having grief now, yes? But at some point we need to let go, and particularly of things. There are some things that I have to remind myself, those are gone. And then kritam namanye. I don't think too much about what I've done. I'm not so proud of what I've accomplished. So there's a lot embedded in this verse, and you can pull out whatever you need at any given time. The third pada is the one that goes with the frame story. When two people are together, I don't go and be a third. And that's always an interesting one, because sometimes two people will be talking, and you'll know that if you walk up, they'll be like, oh, they're so glad to see you. And other times, two people are talking, and they need to finish their private discussion, and if you go and shift things, they might never get back to what they were talking about. So that's where we come back to are we a proper yojika here, yojika? Are we intuitive to, should we go up or should we let them continue to be two together? But that supposedly is the reason why this verse was composed, and it's all good. So then the last pada says, Kim Karanam. What's a Karanam? Kim Karanam Bhoja. Just the name of the king. Sorry. Yeah. Bhavami. I am. Somebody just all yell it out, yeah? Murkha. Fool. Yeah. So frame story sets up this teaching situation, and this is the verse we got out of it. And there is almost certainly something here to be used. I used to think I was pretty good at number 1, but this summer, I've been skirting the edges of eating standing up, maybe not walking, but sometimes. So, good to keep in mind. Kim karanam bhoja bhavami murkha. Karanam bhoja bhavami murkha. Kim is just what? Karanam is the cause. So what is the cause? And the verb that I am a fool. So that's where you need the frame story. Because Kalidasa, or whoever the poet was, did something outrageous that the king called him an idiot. And it was a setup for him to teach the king how to behave, because he had caused offense to his queen by not letting her have some talk with one of her best friends. So that just sort of ties it together. Like, these are all the ways you can be a fool. And that's oftentimes the last pada either gives the powerful metaphor or explains. It's a little bit like a really good short story in English can do. Like, you don't get the story point until like the last paragraph, and it hits you over the head.
So he's asking, like, why did the king call his wife a fool?
No. I'm sorry, I didn't tell the frame story well enough. The idea is that the poet watched the king offend his queen. And he wanted to, say that's no way to treat her. She should be able to have a moment talking with her, private talk with her friend. So he behaved outrageously in such a way that the king called the poet a fool. And this is the poet's response. This is the poet saying, not only I'm not a fool because I'm not doing these 4 or 5 foolish things, including what you just did. So, poets are always not servants of the king, but they are definitely under the king, right? So it's not like you could go up to your best friend and say, hey, your wife needed to have that conversation. Why were you going and bothering her like she is not having her own private time, But he set it up. He set it up so this verse happened. That's how Guruji told it. And it may be from other people may know this verse. It's one I remember from a long time ago. Suzanne, did you have a comment?
Oh yeah, it just made me think of the function of the fool in Shakespeare. There's the fool that's always giving advice to the king, but it's for the wise one, but it's always veiled. So they're like criticizing, right? But in a way that it seems like a joke. So this reminds me of that,
No, I've thought about some of my father's comments on Shakespeare while I was preparing for this. Like, he has unlikely people sometimes say amazing things.
Yes, King Lear, right? It just makes me think of King Lear.
Oh, yeah. Never read that one because the ending. So what is our next? Jalabindu. Jalabindu nipatena. Jalabindu nipatena. Kramasha puryate ghata. Kramasha puryate ghata. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Om. One more time together. Jalabindu nipatena. Kramasha puryate ghata. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Om. One thing that I used to always think about this verse in context of knowledge, that little by little is how you get knowledge. But I've recently become more interested in the idea of dharma, that if you're trying to change your behavior in some way, don't say, oh, I'm going to be perfectly nice to everybody from now on. Just think little by little, how can I make changes? It's like all of these verses, you have to make your own interpretation, or it doesn't mean much. Does anybody have one from another language or culture that they grew up with that is either the opposite or similar?
Okay, in Jamaica they say 1-1 fill basket.
Say it again?
1-1 fill basket. 1-1 fill basket.
Oh, wonderful. 1-1 fill basket. Ooh, that's good. That's even, but let's look at the difference of that, because in my plumbing analogy, it was passive. The water was just dripping from the sink, or usually a sink. And if you're doing the 1-1 fill basket, you're the one who's you're the agent of filling that basket. And I know things like picking blueberries, it can feel like it's going to take forever, because small berries and then to not eat them along the way.
But then you made me think, when you said the thing about the bucket, then you took me to Ayurveda, where Dr. Ladd always does a drawing of how disease comes about. Because you have this giant pail, and you have a leaky faucet, and drip, 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 until finally the bucket overflows, and then you got an issue in your tissue.
Yeah, no, that's the same analogy in a negative way, but also not purely negative, because the flip side of that is getting better. Can also be, you're taking those drops out. No, I like that. Yes.
Hello? It's okay?
If you point it more at your mouth, it seems to
Okay.
work better, as
There.
difficult as it is.
There's one in Italian that my grandfather used to say, which is very famous, is piano piano si va lontano. And in English is slowly but surely. So it's about patience.
Yeah.
Don't rush. Take your time.
No, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. This one has the word by word, so I'm going to let people explore that on their own. What is... Sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Kramasha. Yeah, no. Great question, Mahesha. Kramasha is a good word because it's an adverb, but it comes from the verb kram, to go. And it has, as opposed, well, more than other verbs to go, it has that step-by-step meaning. So, sometimes going is like foop. Sometimes it's, bump, bump, bump. That's the idea here. Kramasha. So I think we translate it as gradually, but that's, it's got that step-by-step derivation. Yeah. Kramasha puriyate ghata, is filled the jar. So we have, forgetting what, I've seen different things. What is official full moon? It was last night?
Early morning.
It was early this morning, like about 3:55 a.m.
Okay, wonderful. So it depends how you count it. That's Purnam, which is filled, and that's the past passive participle form. Puriyate is the passive finite verb form, is filled. What is our next verse? I let things get out of order. Sahasa is Sahasa vidadhita nakriyam, Sahasa vidadhita nakriyam, aviveka paramapadam padam. Aviveka paramapadam padam. Vrinute hi vimrishakarinam. Vrinute hi vimrishakarinam. Gunalubdha swayameva sampada. Gunalubdha swayameva sampada. So, who knows what is sahasa? All of a sudden, yes, suddenly. Vidadhita. Remember I said this morning this verb I'd looked up possibly more than any other? Vidha, which means, among other things, to do or to perform. So, this is potential case. So all of a sudden, one should not do any action. So this is in the look before you leap context of our English quotes. Aviveka paramapadam padam. Lack of, someone who has lack of discrimination. They don't look and see what is ramifications of things. They are choosing the path of supreme danger. And what, on the other hand, is favorable is that vimrishakarinam, somebody who does things having considered them first, towards that person, the good fortune is smiles on them. They're conducive to them because they're gunalubdha. This is the part that doesn't translate so beautifully in English, because in English we have good fortune singular. Here we have sampada, plural. So good fortunes are greedy for virtue. They want to see something really nice. And product of my conditioning for many years living in San Francisco is I was thinking of venture capitalists reading a business plan. They want to see that you've thought things out before they hand over $1 million or 10. But it's a great verse, partly for the sound and the meaning, and it's also a good one if you need to tell yourself, let me slow down and think about this.
So you said the dangerous path? I'm
Yeah.
trying to see that where...
This is Bharavi, and he is a wonderful poet. When we've done stotras here, we've done Kirateshvara Shiva Stotram. It's some of the best poetry I know. He is not easy Sanskrit. So I haven't taught this in a while, so I talked it through a little bit with Devane at lunch. If you look it up on the internet, they will tell you something that I think is grammatically wrong. At least some people. I was like, okay, let me get some help here. And I found something that can't be right because that's a singular verb form, and they're trying to make it plural. So, apad. In English, we say something goes well or something doesn't go well, right? In Sanskrit, it's the same. That another verb to go, which is pad, is also very step by step, which is what we get pada from, which is foot. So sampad here, actually, oh my goodness, questions are so useful. Sampad is good fortune. And that sam means togetherness, pulling things, inclusivity. Sanskrit is that prefix. And if you have, on the other hand, apad or vipad, it's some degree of danger or adversities. I never remember precisely which is which. So, Parama, what is Parama?
Higher.
Highest, really.
Highest.
Yeah. So apad and apadam is what case? Ends in a consonant. What does that make you think? Ending in a consonant. Mm-hmm. But apadam is genitive plural. So of ultimate difficulties, ultimate dangers, padam is state. So someone not having a lack of discrimination, aviveka, chooses, makes a bad choice, basically. Anyway, I think once I go home and find my notes on doing this with Dr. Sharma, there may be some other translation. But this is my experience with teaching the stotra, which I've taught many more times, is that the first 5 times I taught it, I had to go over my notes, and it's like, how did he navigate that grammar? So I'm 95% sure I'm right about this now, but what is famous is the first pada. One should not do anything all of a sudden, and that is easy. The rest is a little more bharavi complex, but I think I have it. And the last pada is huge idea, which is that good fortune, what do we say? We say, God helps those who help themselves. That's a big one, right? Some context, we say, fortune favors the brave. What else do we say? What does fortune smile on? Can anybody think of a quote?
Does fortune smile on a fool?
Well, yeah, no, sometimes also. That's, okay, so Giri just asked, does fortune smile on a fool? And there's going to be a great verse for that, I'm sure. That's the thing about these collection of verses. They'll give you both sides. It depends on context. But this is a serious discussion between Yudhishthira and I think one of his brothers. He's being urged to go to battle when he doesn't have enough weapons. And he's saying, we need to get our act together here or we're going to get creamed. So I was looking for more stuff from Bharavi, and a lot of it had to do with battles and kings. But mostly, the biggest thing is the drinking from a fire hose thing. There's so many great verses in all of these. And Devain did this a few years ago, and he has another lovely translation where he talks about magnetically attracted to good fortune. I just always like the image of fortune being greedy for something good. This is where, again, translation can be according to your style. What we're talking about here, I stuck in this little bit of English, is how to approach action. And thinking about things ahead of time or just diving in, this is one of the questions. And I stuck in this quote because one of the first people to introduce me to quotes was this wonderful math teacher I had in the 6th grade. And in the classroom, he had quotes from all these famous people up on the wall. And he put his quote up there with all those famous people. And my 11-year-old self thought this was really egotistical of him. But I never forgot his quote. And he was a wonderful teacher. I still think in terms of Visarga Sandhi rules. I think in terms of flowcharts, because he taught us flowcharts and Venn diagrams and other things that didn't stick as well, but the things that stuck were things I use. Anyway, so this is reach for the stars. If you become stuck in the treetops, at least you are out of the underbrush. So we're going to have a couple verses on effort and, when you give up. And there will be, in some repository of verses, a really good one for when you walk away. But the ones I'm using today are when you hang in. So, prarabhyate na khalu vighna bhayena nichahi. Prarabhyate na khalu vighna bhayena nichahi. Prarabhya vighna vihita viramanti madhya. Prarabhya vighna vihita viramanti madhya. Vignai punarapi pratihanyamanaha. Vignai punarapi pratihanyamanaha. Prarabhya chottamajana na parityajanti. Prarabhya chottamajana na parityajanti. All right, we should do this together after we do meaning. And I want to point out, this is from Niti Shatakam, and possibly from other places as well, by Bhartrahari. So most of us in this ashram were introduced to Bhartrihari with some of the tough verses, like the ones Devain was referring to. I will never forget Guruji teaching Bhoga na bhukta, vayameva bhukta. We have not enjoyed pleasures. Pleasures have eaten us. Bhartrihari packs lots of punches, but other side. This is one from another one of his works saying, what are different kinds of people? And so, first thing here is, what is the verb? Prarabhya. What is the word? First two things. The verb is arab. Who knows meaning of arab? Means to begin. And what about this form, the ya at the end of things? Having. Yeah, so it's indeclinable past participle when you have an upasarga. So all the time in these three, four padas, we're saying having begun. So in the first one, there's a na there. So this is all passive. By the low people, something is not begun. Why? Vighna bhayena. Oh, I'm so sorry. Prarabhyate. This is not, prarabhya is, goes with the second and third pada, not the first pada, my bad. Prarabhyate means is not begun. Something is not begun, nichai, by the lowest of people. Why? What is a vighna? Obstacle. And what is bhaya? Fear. So the lowest people, they don't even start something because they're afraid, there's going to be problems here. So why start? Why get into this? And then, second category, madhyaha, middle group, is prarabhya, having started. What is viramanti? Stopping. Yeah, they quit. Why? They run into problems. Vighna vihita. So they do start, but things get a little rough, and I'm out of here. And then we move on to Vignai Punarapi. Well, actually not through. What case is Vignai? Tritiya. So it can be one of the meanings of Tritiya is what with the passive case? Agent. Agent of the passive. So by obstacles, pratihanyamana. Clobbered somehow, destroyed is, I didn't look this up, but what does han mean? To kill or to strike. Yeah. So they're being struck again and again by obstacles. They're being clobbered. And they, prarabhya, having started, na parityajanti. No, they don't give up, right? Because they don't tyej, yeah. It's funny because we have tyej we're used to seeing it in the Gita in a positive form, like renunciation, tyaga. But this is just an everyday thing, like uttama jana. We had uttama earlier today. What did uttama mean? Highest, yeah. Because we had it, I think, with, banks of the river, when Devane was teaching, right? We had these tall banks. So here it is tall people, meaning highest, yeah. So this is one, persistence. Does anybody have a quote that they can think of from, I think we can probably people will think of things tomorrow, but if anything comes out,
There isn't anything that can't be fixed.
If at first you don't succeed.
yes, Mahesha, thank you. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah, wonderful.
I think there's one that's when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Meaning that they don't run away, right? That they get to work, right?
Yes.
So I think this fits here.
Yeah.
The third group have to be the tough ones, though.
No, thank you so much. So these are both good ones from what we grew up with. Some of these are more contemporaneous, and some of them, a friend of mine offended me years ago by referring to my expressions as being archaic. Was it archaic or antiquated? He used one of those words. And I mean, this was years ago, and he's in his early 30s now. So it was, but some of what I was quoting, he'd learned in high school as kind of under that heading. But yeah, but these ones you two just came up with, I think are more, they're not so old-fashioned, and as I hope I made clear, I like the old-fashioned ones also. So whatever works for us. Let's try doing this together. Prarabhyate na khalu vighna bhayena nichay Prarabhya vighna vihita viramanti madhya Vignai punarapi pratihanyamanaha Prarabhya chottama janaha na parityajanti. Om. And are we on Neha Bhikrama? Is that next? Oh. Neha bhikramanashosti. So this is possibly familiar to many of you as from the Bhagavad Gita. For me, personally, I used to have a class with Dr. Sharma at one point that was sort of late Friday. And I'd get stuck at work and sometimes show up very late. And he was so kind. And I was sort of like, should we even meet, because I am so late. And he gave me this verse, and I forget the first part most of the time, but the second part is huge all my life. Since then, anyway. Neha bhikramanashosti, Neha bhikramanashosti, pratyavayo na vidyate, pratyavayo na vidyate, swalpamapyasya dharmasya, swalpamapyasya dharmasya, trayate mahato bhayat, trayate mahato bhayat. Om. I didn't look up everything about the first part, but I'll give you what I know from memory. There is not here any loss of effort. It means something like that. And I forget what pratyavayo means. Anybody know pratyavaya? Anyway, the part that is dear to my heart is just a little bit. Manorama, I think, somebody else did something this weekend with su. Su in front of something means good. It can also mean very. Oh, yes, sudustara. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, really piling it on. Dustara and then sudustara. So here it's similar. What is alpam? Little bit. And su alpam is a very little. Asya dharmasya. Now, this is where it's extremely useful, I think, to fill in the blank. This is in a context of previous verses in the Gita, of correct action of some kind. But I think as a quote, it works very well to say whatever you're talking about. Just a very little of any dharma. Trayate mahato bhayat. Protects from very great fear. So if I have next to no time to meditate in the morning, I will set the timer on my phone for just a few minutes. And then sometimes I say, okay, I'm going to do more later in the day. That can be a different story. But in terms of what I do to start my day, if I don't make it happen properly, I don't beat myself up, because it doesn't help. I just say, okay, I'm going to just sit here for a few minutes. And however much time I've got, I'm going to go within. And it helps a lot. So one of the best things that Dr. Sharma taught me is on the quote above. The greatest enemy of good is perfection. And Shanta and I talk about this a lot. It's usually in the context of we just got to get this done. It may not be perfect, but we need to knock it out. And this verse helps me. Like just a little bit, doesn't have to be everything all perfect.
Difficulty or danger.
Oh,
Difficulty or danger.
thank you. She's being my dictionary person. So there is no loss of effort or something like that. There is no danger in if you don't do something good all the way. You're doing something good. Now, there would be contexts where starting something that you absolutely can't finish can be bad. But, you know, all of these things are, what's the context? But in the context of dharma, correct action, I would say there's not a whole lot of places where just doing a little bit is not helpful. So, again, I think what we say to our friends is less important than what we say to ourselves. And speaking about myself, I find I need a great deal of monitoring. A great deal of appropriate corrections, guidance. So this next one, I actually, while I was looking up things for this talk, I found this in a complete verse, which then I subsequently totally lost. I don't know what happened to the verse. But this was something Dr. Sharma taught us, and I love it. Prakshalanadhipankasya Prakshalanadhipankasya Duradasparshanam varam Duradasparshanam varam. All right, who can give me what is panka? Mud. And what's prakshalanam? Kshalayati. What's that verb? Kshalayati, kshalayatah, ksalayanti, kshalayasi, kshalayatah, kshalayata, kshalayami, kshalayava, kshalayama. Yeah, as Tara Devi said, it is to clean. So prakshalanam is cleaning. And what case is ad or at? Ablative. And what is one of the uses of ablative? From, but it can be psychologically from, so we can use it for comparison. So, varam, who can tell me what is varam? Best or good, but it can also mean better. So it better than washing of mud, right? That's what we're talking about here. Durat, what is dura? Far, from afar. Asparshanam. Don't touch it. So I have a couple I like in English, but I want to hear what you guys come up with. What's a good quote for this? Shanta has something.
Oh, can you just explain this line in full?
Oh, sure. It is better than washing of mud is not touching it from afar. So the vara, the better, goes with asparshanam. You don't touch it. All right, so one of mine that I'm sure my dear friend Kyle would have found most antiquated is an ounce of prevention right? Is worth a pound of cure. Yeah. What else? There's a similar one which you will never. A young person like doesn't get this at all. What's another one? Prevention better than cure. Yeah, that also just very simply laid out. But there's a similar. Huh? That's it. Thank you, George.
Can you repeat?
George just said a stitch in time saves 9. You tell that to a young person in California, and it's like they haven't had anything that they stitched recently necessarily. And, but it's, even if they have, they just don't know the saying. No, I mean, I can't tell you. There was something I was going to wear this weekend, and I didn't stitch it in time. So the hole just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it's like, I can't travel with that, and I don't have time to sew it right now. But that's the idea, is a little hole. It sort of reminds of dikes. There might be a saying having to do with a hole in a dike, but I can't. Anyway, Shanta.
I always kind of thought of this as negative, but middle of summer, no rain in the forecast for a month, and my father would say, "You're going to take your raincoat." So he was trying to make sure I didn't get in trouble.
Well, there can be, you can go too far on any of this. But on the other hand, how many times have we all gotten stuck somewhere without a raincoat and wished we'd had them? So you get wet. It just depends on what gets wet and where you need to be afterwards. Woo.
In young people parlance, it reminds me of just not going near that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. That's a very appropriate way to put it. Not going there, right? Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. This next one, I'm going to go over very quickly. It doesn't speak to action, but Danam Bhogo, nope. I have to find the meter. Danam Bhogo Nashas Tisro Gatayo Bhavanti Vittasya. Okay, so I don't know this meter, but we'll wing it. Danam Bhogo Nashas, Danam Bhogo Nashas, Tisro Gatayo Bhavanti Vittasya, Tisro Gatayo Bhavanti Vittasya, Yo Nadadati Nabhunk, Yo Nadadati Nabhunkte, Yo Nadadati Nabhunkte, Tasya Tritiya Gatir Bhavati, Tasya Tritiya Gatir Bhavati. All right, what is Dhanam? No, Dhanam is wealth. What is Dhanam? Charity or donation, yeah. What is Bhoga? Enjoyment, yeah. And what is Nasha? Destruction. So these are the Tisra Gataya. We had Gati earlier this weekend also. Gati comes from the verb gam, to go. And what is Gati? A path, or it can also often means a goal. In this context, it's where you're going to end up. So these are the three places your money's going to go. Either you're going to have fun with it, you're going to give it away, or you're just going to lose it. Which, honestly, if you die with a ton of it, you have lost it because, yeah. Anyway, this is, there's a ton of verses on the pain of poverty, and I really didn't want to teach any of those. But this is one which you can look at a lot of different ways. So, yo na dadati. What is dadati? No, it's just third conjugation. He who does not give, right, in this context, yeah, because yo na dadati, na bhunkte, or enjoy. He who doesn't give his money away and doesn't have fun with it, you know, the destruction is his, that's where his is going to go. Tasya tritiya gatir bhavati. He's going to end up with that third ending place. Tisra is 3 in the feminine. And gati is a feminine noun. So who can tell me what 3 is in masculine? No, but, okay, so Jeevani just gave us trini, which is neuter, which is also, was going to be my next question, so thank you. And masculine, anybody? No, that's the adjective, third. Yeah. Traya. Yeah, so in Sanskrit, the numbers start out with genders in the first few, which is a little challenging. Once you get to 5, you're all good. Everything's the same.
Numbers, not going there.
Jalabindu nipatena. You find a verse that is an example. So if you like this verse, this can be 3 in the feminine. And the Vedas are often talked about, depending, they can be traya, like the 3, unless they're talking about, 4 Vedas, depending on context. So this next one, someone said it comes from Manusmriti. I don't know where it comes from, but it's very famous and also I think needs to be taken very much contextually, but can be useful. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat, satyam bruyat priyam bruyat, ma bruyat satyam apriyam, ma bruyat satyam apriyam. So, what is bruyat? Yeah, but what's the actually it's not passive. Should speak. What's the tense? If that's the same as potential, yeah. Potential. So one should speak what? And what should one also speak? Kindness in this context, yeah. Priya means dear. You should say nice things. And then the ending part is ma bruyat. Satyam apriyam. Now, no, but it's saying don't say something that is true but is unkind. So this is worthy of tons of discussion in and of itself, because sometimes unpleasant truths need to be said. But there's some pretty good quotes that we grew up with. I'm hoping I remember mine, hoping some of you will tell me what's in...
Don't say anything if you don't have anything nice to say.
Yeah. Okay, Jayashri is offering, don't say anything if you don't have something nice to say. So you have the choice to keep quiet, which...
If you say something that is not nice if you have to say, then say it nicely.
Well, that is also, this is contextual. All these, you're going to find another verse that says sometimes something bitter has to be said. So you have to pick which of these quotes you use. But it is, Dr. Sharma would sometimes quote this with the context that that ahimsa comes before satyam. Anyway, Suzanne.
Oh yeah, this was just, I was just thinking of Yoga Sutras with this one, and exactly what you said, you know, how it's like a Russian nesting doll, you know, what envelops all of them. But also I was thinking, I mean, we could say something that might seem harsh, though if it's coming from a place of compassion, that is a kindness. I think, you know, we'd have to like dig deep for examples, right? But yeah, so then that still could be a kindness, yeah.
No, I mean, if somebody's going somewhere and their dress is completely wrong, it's kind to say, you know, this, you know, your slip's showing. I'm sorry, that's the classic context that some of us grew up with. But, you know, somebody said something to me unkind about an event I was at, and I was, you know, in terms of the photograph, and that was not helpful. You know, I came back from it. However I looked, it was done. But again, if we think what we're talking to ourselves again, I think we can think, is it helpful to say unkind things to ourselves? That's another thing that, and self-compassion is useful.
Indira ji, this was actually, when you said about audience participation, it was one that I had marked. The Satyam.
Oh.
And you know the third and fourth pada are also very nice. Should I just quickly say?
Oh, you mean
For this.
the part I'm missing?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So, Satyam bruyat priyam bruyan, na bruyat satyam apriyam, priyam chanan ritam bruyat, esha dharma sanatanam. Oh, sanatana, sorry. Esha dharma sanatana.
Okay, so
Third line would be Priyam Chanan Ritam Bruyat. The pleasant untruth should not be spoken also.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth should be spoken, the kind or pleasant kindness should be spoken, not spoken the unpleasant truth, but also not the pleasing untruth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the eternal law.
Shanta.
This is just an interesting topic, what to say, when to say, what not to say. But in Dave Aine's first Friday night class at the beginning of COVID, he brought 10 verses to go over. And we never got past the first one because it was all about when to say something and when not to say something. And we went back and forth for the whole hour. No, you can't say that. Yes, you can say that. We went all over the rap with it. It was amazing.
Thank you for that context.
I just
No,
wanted
it's- yeah.
to share a sort of different context. I understand that Eleanor Roosevelt had a rather not very nice relative, and her remark was, if you don't have something nice to say about somebody, come sit by me.
Well, you know, like context is everything.
Somehow, hearing that coming from George at first, I'm thinking he's not going to say what I think he's going to say.
Well, you know George, but yeah. Thank you. So we won't get through all of these, but I'm going to skip. I'm not going to skip this next one because it's quick and easy, I think. Shastranyadhityapi bhavanti murkha. Shastranyadhityapi bhavanti murkha. Yastu kriyavan purusha savidvan. Yastu kriyavan purusha savidvan. Suchintyamapyaushadhamaturaణam. Suchintyamapyaushadhamaturaణam. Nanama matrena karotyarogam. Nanama matrena karotyarogam. Om. So, Shastrani. Scriptures, wise works, educational, something useful. Adhitya. What is adhitya? Yes. Yeah, having studied. The verb is e. Yeah, with the prefix adhi means to read or to study. So having read scriptures or wise texts, bhavanti murkha. Some people are fools. And the counter to it is yastu kriyavan. He who is kriyavan. So what is kriya? Action. And what does that suffix van mean? Possessing. So he who has actually done something. He was possessed of action. Purusha, a person. Savidvan. So you can read and study anything you know, but if you don't live it, that's it's a good verse, I think. And I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Bible, but I think this is biblical. By their deeds you shall know them. Is that biblical? Yeah. I always like that because it's that what we live is what counts, and that is, of course, the challenge. But one reason I like this verse is because there's some of the time the metaphors in Sanskrit get very almost sarcastical, and this is one of them. So, suchintyam, a very well thought of. Su here means very. Again, aushadham, even a very well thought of medicine. For aturanam, for those who are ill, nanama matrena. What is nama? Just the extent of saying the name. does not nakaroti arogyam. I'm not sure if that should be long R or not. Nakaroti arogam. The meter sounds okay, but roga is illness. Arogyam is health. So probably aroga is absence of disease. So that's, anyway, just saying the name of something, even if it's so powerful, is not necessarily going to cure you if you do not actually take the drug. So anyway, who's got a quote for that?
What you said first. Okay. In Spanish, we have a saying, el que practica lo que predica, which means he who practices what he preaches. So it's actually what they say, something about an acharya, the teacher who actually puts into practice what we were looking at. Kriyavan, no, which part was it?
Kriyavan, yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's what is really...
It rhymes in Spanish, el que practica lo que predica.
Yeah, but it's interesting how practice what you preach is like advice, and it's different because he who practices, right?
But that would be like a description of a person, right? I don't know if it's a proverb, but...
Yeah, it's just the nuances are a little different, how it strikes you on these...
Yeah, it's not an imperative.
Yeah. So we are looking at almost 5 o'clock, and I was given permission to go the tiniest bit over. I think I'm going to skip the Magha verse. Anybody who likes it, we can meet after. Oh, well, okay, I'll give the English quickly. How about that? We'll jam a couple of these. Vachanaira satam magiyaso, Vachanaira satam magiyaso, Nakalu vyeti mahatva muddhatai, Nakalu vyeti mahatva muddhatai, Kimapaiti rajo bhirauravair, Kimapaiti rajo bhirauravair, Aur varai, Avakirnasya maner maharghata, Avakirnasya maner maharghata. So this one is by the harsh words of people who are negative or not good. A great soul does not go away from his greatness. So when somebody says bad things about somebody who is truly great, they're still great. And the metaphor is not a jewel that is covered with dust. Doesn't have less value. So really, the Sanskrit rocks with metaphors. Yeah. So this next one is Udyamena hi karyani, Udyamena hi karyani, Siddhyanti namanorathai, Siddhyanti namanorathai, Nahi suptasya singhasya, Nahi suptasya singhasya, Pravishanti mukhe mrigaha, Pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. All right, so we're running in just enough time where we'll do this one quickly because It is such lovely sarcasm. Udyamena. What is udyama? Okay, well, anybody can read it out loud, that's fine. By effort, alone, right? And manoratai, we had that earlier with Devain. Yes. What is it? Chariots of the mind. Chariots of the mind or desires. So with effort alone, things get done, not with desires. And then the metaphor, which is so over the top. Deer, do not walk into the mouth of the sleeping lion. So the poet's not even like, deer don't walk up to the lion. It's they don't go into the mouth of the lion that is moreover sleeping. So that's like hammering the point home very, very fully. So the last one I wanted to end on was, again, we had that verse from the Gita, which has been such a sustainer for me. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Just a little bit of this dharma can protect. This is an example of something from, I didn't even know where it was from until a couple days ago, or if I might have known and forgotten. But many years ago, I had a great personal crisis. And I was alone on the East Coast, and I called several people for emergency emotional first aid as well as practical advice. And some people were home, some people weren't home, but I was like, okay, this is who I'm reaching out to. And one of them was Purnima, one of my oldest and closest friends, and she did not pick up the phone. Remember, 20-odd years ago, cell phones were less ubiquitous. So Bharati Devi picked up the phone. And she gave me this very great gift of yoga philosophy that helped me in a moment of great personal anguish. I was stuck between two family members, and there was no right course of action. And decades later, I still don't see that there was nothing anyone could tell me that would make it, there was no easy solution. But Bharati shared with me something that is very much in our Guru's tradition, and I took it authentically coming from her, and it was very healing at the time. And it was bhogapavargartham drishyam. So bhoga, repeat, bhoga, apavarga, artham, drishyam. So who can tell me what is drishyam? Yes, you could say. That which should be seen, and you're totally correct, but in this case, it is the universe. So it is our corporeal universe. And what is it good for? Bhoga and apavarga. And really, I'm not teaching this in any way that someone who's versed in the Yoga Sutras would be teaching it. I am only teaching it in how it helped me. And as an example of how wise words can help in a worldly sense, but one thing our Guru taught was there is no answer ultimately in the mind. We have to go beyond the mind. And someone else could have said that to me in other words, and I wouldn't have listened. But I listened to Bharati because she was a genuine student of our Guru, and she knew, as I knew, how much that was a fundamental part of his teaching. Is that in the end, you go inside. And that's where the answers are. And in so many of his teachings, you see that over and over again. So, final beatitude, enlightenment. Yeah, going all the way.
So does that mean like give and take, like is what the world is about? I mean, meaning of this.
This one, you can look at this up, and you can look this up in the Yoga Sutras, and you can think about it. But bhoga, you can take as pleasure. You can also just take as experience. It is, experience, and then you go beyond. But it is, like I said, when I started this discussion, what is useful to think about in teaching verses, at least for me, is what is the one right word? What is the one thing that can be, as this writer I like says, the feather at the pivot point? So for me, this was a feather at a pivot point. I was in bad shape, and other people helped me also, but there was nothing that helped me more than what Bharati said, that this is samsara, and finally you go beyond, you go within, and that's the answer. That was my interpretation. But again, we all have to find what interpretation is good for our own healing, or anyone we're talking to, if we have the grace to be able to think of the right thing at the right time, which is not always the case. And as I have learned and continue to learn, sometimes the best thing to say is nothing and just you listen. But it's very different than all these other verses, but it was one of the strongest of my life, where somebody said something and it changed. There was like a click in terms of how I experienced what I was going through. Drishyam, the material world, literally that which should be or can be seen, which encompassed what I was talking about was family life. I was in a crisis in my family, and I did not see anything. I couldn't fix it. And like many of us, we always want to fix things. So anyway, the material world, what is it here for? It is for us to experience and to go beyond. Apavarga. So it was the, Guruji used to say, pray for pain. And it was one of the things he said that I absolutely never related to. So I do not ever pray for pain. But I think it can be useful when pain comes to say, what is the gift here? Another thing he said is that you're walking along and you stub your toe and you feel very sorry for yourself because your foot hurts. And you look down and you see a treasure chest. And then you see, a different perspective on stubbing your toe. And that's a very, it's another way of looking at it. But it has to be, again, the yojaka. God gave me her who picked up the phone. I'm sure Purnima would have made me feel much better because she loves me and she always says good things. But nothing could have been better than what Bharati said, and it was just chance that she picked up the phone. So anyway, thank you all for participating in this discussion, and I hope you will continue to think of quotes that, let us end with Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Shanti, Shanti.